What's going on, my people? Welcome back to another episode of the Stop the Count podcast. In this episode, we'll be breaking down and predicting some of the fights for this upcoming weekend of stacked cards. An amazing weekend for combat sports, and we might get into some news. First, I'll start off by saying there is a PFL card on Friday, women's featherweights and men's heavyweights. Now, I'm not a real big fan of these divisions, so I don't believe I will be watching this. I just wanted to say I will not be talking about it on this episode. I'd like to start off by talking about the top rank boxing card. It's another good boxing weekend, in my opinion, and on this card, there are some good prospects. Two of them being blue chip prospects on the card, Jared Big Baby Anderson and Keyshawndavis. I believe these two are going to 100% be champions one day. And as for another prospect on this card, I really just want to see how Troyisley's development is going and see how his fight goes. Next, I will be talking about the main event, Shakurstevenson versus Shuichiroyoshino. This is a WBC title eliminator. The current champion is Devin Haney, as he is undisputed. Haney will be defending his titles May 20th against Vasily Lomachenko, although it is being said that Haney will be moving up to the 140-pound division no matter what happens. I'll start off by talking about Yoshino. He currently has a record of 16-0 with 12 wins coming by knockout. Now, I see Yoshino being a very patient fighter. He uses a lot of feints to set up his shots, and he's also very accurate with his jab. He's not the fastest and not the most defensively sound, but what he lacks in that, he makes up in toughness. He also has power. Say what you want about his opponents, but it's very hard to knock someone out, and in 16 tries, he's done it 12 times. Next, I will be talking about Shakurstevenson. Now, Shakur is 19-0 with 9 wins coming by knockout. This is his debut in 135-pound weight class after previously holding titles in featherweight and in super featherweight. He is, in my opinion, a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter right now. Some people don't see him as that because he doesn't have really big names on his resume and he doesn't have the accomplishments as some other fighters do, but I believe the skill is obviously there. Shakur is a great all-around fighter. He's so patient and such a smart fighter. That's hard to say. It's hard to say if anybody will ever be able to beat Shakur. His jab is just such a great tool for him. The only knock people have about Shakur is that he doesn't have many knockouts, and his fights aren't the most exciting. But I don't believe that to be true, as I feel anytime you can watch a fighter like Shakur, you should. Now, Yoshino does have power, but I don't believe he has the footwork to be effective for Shakur. Like I said, this will be Shakur's first fight at 135 pounds, so he might want to make a statement. Now, for who I believe will win the fight, I obviously believe Shakur will win by decision, as I believe Yoshino is very tough. I wouldn't be surprised if Shakur is able to knock him out, as he is fighting in a more natural weight for him. A fight between him and the Haney versus Lomo winner would be amazing. Now I will be talking about the DAZN boxing card. This is my favorite card happening this weekend, as there is so many great up-and-coming fighters on here. Some of those being Marccastro. He is an undefeated lightweight prospect. I was able to see Mark fight in his hometown of Fresno, and let me tell you, the atmosphere there was crazy. The amount of love he has from the people there is out of this world. He'll be able to sell out any venue in Fresno anytime he wants. Another prospect I'll be keeping my eye on is Jesus Martinez. He is an undefeated bantamweight. I believe two great fighters sooner or later will be challenging for titles. Another being Ramiro Cesna. He will be having a tough fight against Tomas Matisse. Now we'll get into some of the fights. The first being Rayford versus Jessiemagdaleno. This is a great step-up fight for Ford, as he is coming off of two good performances, but it was 3 fights ago that he fought Edward Vasquez, where he was gifted a win, really, as he did not look good against Vasquez. And even people on the DAZN commentary and Eddie Hearn himself, they said they thought Ray lost that fight clearly. Now getting into Jesse, he is no easy fight as he is 29-1, having lost 5 years ago to Isaac Dogbe. I honestly feel as if Jesse will come out victorious, even though I believe this will be a very good fight. Next, I'll talk about the co-main event, MJ Akhmadaliev versus Marlon Tapales. I also don't really want to get into this one as I believe MJ won't have a problem with anyone else in this division besides the very top guys, that being Fulton or Inoue. He did have a very close fight with Daniel Roman, but I believe MJ will win this fight by knockout. Next, I will be talking about the main event, that being Jesse Bamrodriguez against Christian Gonzalez. This is for the WBO world title. I'll start off by talking about Christian Gonzalez. He has an official record of 15-1 with 5 wins coming by knockout, his lone loss being to fellow undefeated flyweight Angel Ayala 5 years ago. Now, Gonzalez is coming off of 2 straight knockout victories. Gonzalez does have a very good, strong jab. He's also a very good strategic fighter, and he mixes up his punches very well. He also applies smart pressure to his opponents, and he will be the taller fighter and longer fighter, and I believe this will benefit him as he does a pretty good job at managing the distance and working in the mid and long range. He does tend to swing wild at times, causing him to get hit a lot, and he does throw that lead left hook quite often. Next, I will talk about Jesse Bamrodriguez. This is another amazing fighter who I've been very high on for years. This is the first thing I want to mention is that this will probably be his only fight at this weight class, as his trainer Robert Garcia has said that he will be moving back up to 115 pounds, where he was the WBC champion before moving down, attempting to become a 2-division world champion. Bam comes into this fight with a record of 17 wins, no losses, and 11 wins by knockout. He is another one of those guys like Shakur who I believe will be and should be on the pound for pound list, but he doesn't have the big names or the accolades yet, so to get the recognition from the people. Now I see Bam as such a smart fighter. Just the feints he uses to set up his punches and some of the angles he uses are just amazing. He works the body very well. I feel as if he's the fighter that likes to dictate the pace. His footwork is also so nice. Like I have mentioned before, he is moving down, but I do believe this won't hurt his power, as he has had many knockouts at 112 pounds. Now, as for who I see winning the fight, I believe Bam will come out victorious, as I feel the body work Bam does will benefit him immensely. It won't be in any way an easy fight, as Gonzalez is very tough, and I feel as if this matchup between styles is so good and will be a true great fight. I do believe Bam will win by knockout. Next, I'll talk a little bit about the Showtime boxing card. It's a decent card with 2 nice names on it, those 2 being Brandon Lee and Sebastian Fandura. I won't get too deep into their fights, as I believe they shouldn't have too much trouble getting the win. These 2 guys are always ready to put on a show. Next, I'll talk about the UFC 287 card. I'll start off by mentioning about some fights that I really like. The first fight being Kevin Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. This will be the main event of the prelims, and I believe this will be such a good fight. The main card, on the other hand, is worth every penny. It has some very good prospects on it. It starts off with great prospect Raul Rosas versus Christian Rodriguez. This is going to be a good fight. I believe Raul will win, but it will be a good fight between the 2. The next fight will be Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, another good fight. Now, for the first fight we'll get into is robfont versus Adrienyanez. I'll start off by talking about Adrian. He is currently 16-3 with 12 finishes. Yanez is also on a 9-fight win streak. He has gotten a performance bonus in each of his UFC fights. Only one of his UFC fights has made it to the scorecards. This includes the UFC and in the Contender Series. He is 6-0 with 5 knockouts. I feel as if Adrian is a very calm fighter. He does have a good jab and is also a very good body puncher. He's just an all-around great boxer. He only occasionally uses his kicks, but very rarely. Now, he is also a black belt in BJJ, but he has never really had to use this, as he is always trying to keep this fight on the feet. He does also get hit a lot, but he has shown that he does have a chin. Next, we'll be talking about robfont. He has a record of 19-6 with 12 finishes and only being finished one time, as he was submitted by Pedro Munoz almost 7 years ago. In his UFC career, he does have four performance bonuses as well. He is coming off of 2 straight losses, those being to Chito Vera and Jose Aldo. With this being said, I see Rob as a great boxer as well, and he does have a fast, hard jab. I don't believe that he will try to take this fight to the ground or even the clinch, although he does have good ground and clinch ability. Most of Rob's shots are straight or up the middle, either jabs or uppercuts. Although if he gets a shot, he will start using those hooks and his elbows. Although he has been stunned before, like I said, he's never been knocked out. I do believe his offense is his best defense. He does also waste a lot of energy in the beginning, so hopefully this isn't a five-round fight for Font's sake. Now, for who I see winning this fight, I do believe Adrienyanez will win this fight, but he will have a hard time finishing him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to do it, but I would pick an Adrienyanez decision. Now we'll be getting into Jorgemasvidal versus Gilbertburns. This fight might have a lot of attachments to the champion depending on who wins. I'll start off by talking about George. He has a record of 35 wins and 16 losses, having 18 finishes, 2 of those being submissions. 4 of his losses have been by finish, as he has been knocked out twice and submitted twice. Besides the second Kamaru Usman fight, he hasn't been knocked out in 13 years and he hasn't been submitted in 12 years. He's also coming off of 3 straight losses, 2 of those being to Usman and the other being, of course, to Colby Covington. George is obviously a great stand-up fighter. His clinch and his ground game was a weakness for him his last fight against Colby, as he was dominated there. He does throw really good clinch strikes and has a good takedown defense, but he was just struggling his last fight. In the times where Colby and George were on their feet, George was the semi-better fighter. His hands were low while attacking, and that isn't going to help him against anyone. Next, I'll talk about Gilbertburns. He has a record of 21 wins, 5 losses, having 15 wins by finish, 9 submissions, and 6 knockouts. He also has been knocked out twice. 3rd-degree black belt in BJJ. He is great on the ground and has good takedown defense when he wants to, but he always wants to show he's a great boxer. And I believe this is where he messes up. He is so good at throwing strikes off his back and even just getting back in good positions for submissions. Now, he is no slouch on the feet, but this is just not his greatest strength. The Hamza fight really showed that, as he did take so many good shots, but he was also able to hurt Hamza many times. What a fight that was. And even in the Kamaru fight, he hurt Usman at times. He was finished, but it was a great showing from Gilbert. This is such a hard fight to pick, as we don't know how Gilbert will come out, but I believe he will come out victorious by decision. George has said if he loses this fight, it might be his last, so we'll see what happens with that. Next, we'll talk about the main event, Alexpereira versus Israel Adesanya. I'll start off by talking about Israel Adesanya. He does have a 23-2 record, having 15 wins by knockouts, none of those finishes being submissions, with His most recent loss, of course, being to alexpereira by knockout. Now, Alex is 7-1, having 6 wins by knockout, 0 submissions as well. I'm doing this one like this because I feel as if this is just going to be a great kickboxing match, as these two are the best kickboxers in MMA right now. And I also believe they're great at every aspect in kickboxing. I won't really be breaking down too much of their fights, but I believe there will be minimal takedown attempts in this fight. This will be meeting number 4 for them, as they have fought twice in glory, with Alex winning both times, one by knockout, the other by decision. The one UFC fight they did have, we know what happened. We know who won. Now, Israel did stun Alex in the first round of the last fight, but Alex was saved by the bell. The right hand was landing almost at will for Israel the last fight. Pereira wasn't bad either. He was mostly mixing everything up very well, but of course Alex does have that power that could end the fight at any second. Now, for who I have winning that fight, I'll have to go with Alex. Yes, Israel was the best and he has many middleweight records, but Alex is just different. I'm calling an Alex knockout. I believe this might be one of those fighters for Israel that no matter what, no matter how many times he fights, no matter what happens, he'll always just come up too short up against them. Also, talking about some news, the Michael Chiesa versus Joaquin Buckley fight has fallen apart and won't be happening. Michael has said he wants to fight at UFC London in July. Now, for some news in the boxing world, a fight was announced for the undercard of the Tank versus Ryan fight. That being Beck the Bully going for revenge against Gabe Rosado, as Gabe is the only person to be able to defeat Beck in the pros. Also, David Morrell will put up his interim belt on the line against Senna Agbeko. Do you guys think the card is worth the pay-per-view money? Personally, I don't believe it is, but I believe those are still very decent undercard fights. Thank you guys for staying until the end. See you guys next week as I recap the weekend. Don't forget to subscribe and follow me on Twitter at StopTheCount10. See you guys later.